The first book of Adam and Eve. Chapter 1. On the third day, Elohim planted the garden in the east of the earth, on the border of the world westward, beyond which, towards the sun rising, one finds nothing but water, that encompasses the whole world, and reaches unto the borders of heaven. And to the north of the garden there is a sea of water, clear and pure to the taste, like unto nothing else, so that through the clearness thereof one may look into the depths of the earth. And when a man washes himself in it, becomes clean of the cleanness thereof, and white of its whiteness, even if he were dark. And Elohim created that sea of his own good pleasure, for he knew what would come of the man he should make. So that after he had left the garden, on account of his transgression, men should be born in the earth, from among whom righteous ones should die, whose souls Elohim would raise at the last day, when they should return to their flesh, should bathe in the water of that sea, and all of them repent of their sins. But when Elohim made Adam go out of the garden, he did not place him on the border of it northward, lest he should draw near to the sea of water, and he and Eve wash themselves in it, be cleansed from their transgression they had committed, and be no longer reminded of it in the thought of their punishment. Then again, as to the southern side of the garden, Elohim was not pleased to let Adam dwell there, because when the wind blew from the north, it would bring him on that southern side the delicious smell of the trees of the garden. Wherefore Elohim did not put Adam there, lest he should smell the sweet smell of those trees, forget his transgression, and find consolation for what he had done, take delight in the smell of the trees, and not be cleansed from his transgression. Again also, because Elohim is merciful and of great pity, and governs all things in a way he alone knows, he made our father Adam dwell in the western border of the garden, because on that side of the earth is very broad. And Elohim commanded him to dwell there in a cave, in a rock, the cave of treasures, below the garden. Chapter 2. But when our father Adam and Eve went out of the garden, they trod the ground on their feet, not knowing they were treading. And when they came to the opening of the gate of the garden, and saw the broad earth spread before them, covered with stones large and small, and with sand, they feared and trembled, and fell on their faces from fear that came upon them, and they were as dead, because whereas they had hitherto been in the garden land, beautifully planted with all manner of trees, they now saw themselves in a strange land, which they knew not, and had never seen. And because at that time they were filled with the grace of a bright nature, and they had not hearts turned toward earthly things, therefore had Elohim pity on them, And when he saw them fallen before the gate of the garden, he sent his word unto Father Adam and Eve, and raised them from their fallen state. Chapter 3. Elohim said to Adam, I have ordained on this earth days and years, and thou and thy seed shall dwell and walk in it, until the days and years are fulfilled, when I shall send the word that created thee, and against which thou hast transgressed, the word that made thee come out of the garden, and that raised thee when thou wast fallen. Yea, the word that will again save thee when the 5 days and a half are fulfilled. But when Adam heard these words from Elohim, and of the great 5 days and a half, he did not understand the meaning of them. For Adam was thinking that there would be but 5 days and a half for him to the end of the world. And Adam wept and prayed to Elohim to explain it to him. Then Elohim, in his mercy for Adam, who was made after his own image and similitude, explained to him that these were 5,500 years, and how one would then come and save him and his seed. But Elohim had before that made this covenant with our father Adam in the same terms, ere he came out of the garden, when he was by the tree, whereof Eve took the fruit and gave it him to eat. Inasmuch as, when our father Adam came out of the garden, he passed by that tree, and saw how Elohim had then changed the appearance of it into another form, and how it withered. And as Adam went to it, he feared, trembled, and fell down. But Elohim, in his mercy, lifted him up, and then made this covenant with him. And again, when Adam was by the gate of the garden, and saw the cherub with a sword of flashing fire in his hand, and the cherub grew angry and frowned at him, both Adam and Eve became afraid of him, and thought he meant to put them to death. So they fell on their faces and trembled with fear. But he had pity on them, and showed them mercy, and turning from them went up to heaven, and prayed unto Yahuwah, and said, Yahuwah, thou didst send me to watch at the gate of the garden with a sword of fire. But when thy servants Adam and Eve saw me, they fell on their faces and were as dead. O my Yahuwah, what shall we do to thy servants? Then Elohim had pity on them, and showed them mercy, and sent his angel to keep the garden. And the word of Yahuwah came unto Adam and Eve, and raised them up. And Yahuwah said to Adam, I told thee that at the end of 5 days and a half I will send my word and save thee. Strengthen thy heart, therefore, and abide in the cave of treasures, of which I have before spoken to thee. And when Adam heard this word from Elohim, he was comforted with that which Elohim had told him, for he had told him how he would save him. Chapter 4. But Adam and Eve wept for having come out of the garden, their first abode. And indeed, when Adam looked at his flesh, that was altered, he wept bitterly, and Eve over what they had done. And they walked and went gently down into the cave of treasures. And as they came to it, Adam wept over himself and said to Eve, "Look at this cave that is to be our prison in this world and a place of punishment. What is it compared with the garden? What is its narrowness compared with the space of the other? What is this rock by the side of those groves? What is the gloom of this cavern compared with the light of the garden? What is this overhanging ledge of rock to shelter us compared with the mercy of Yahuwah that overshadowed us? What is the soil of this cave compared with the garden land? This earth strewed with stones, and that planted with delicious fruit trees?" And Adam said to Eve, "Look at thine eyes, and at mine, which afore beheld angels in heaven, praising, and they too without ceasing. But now we do not see as we did. Our eyes have become of flesh. They cannot see in like manner as they saw before." Adam said again to Eve, "What is our body today compared to what it was in former days when we dwelt in the garden?" After this, Adam did not like to enter the cave under the overhanging rock, nor would he ever have entered it. But he bowed to Elohim's orders and said to himself, "Unless I enter the cave, I shall again be a transgressor." Chapter 5. Then Adam and Eve entered the cave and stood praying in their own tongue, unknown to us, but which they knew well. And as they prayed, Adam raised his eyes and saw the rock and the roof of the cave that covered him overhead, so that he could see neither heaven nor Elohim's creatures. So he wept and smote heavily upon his breast until he dropped and was as dead. And Eve sat weeping, for she believed he was dead. Then she arose, spread her hands toward Elohim, suing him for mercy and pity, and said, "O Elohim, forgive me my sin, the sin which I committed, and remember it not against me. For I alone caused thy servant to fall from the garden into this lost estate, from light into this darkness, and from the abode of joy into this prison. O Elohim, look upon this thy servant thus fallen, and raise him up from his death, that he may weep and repent of his transgression, which he committed through me. Take not away his soul this once, but let him live, that he may stand after the measure of his repentance, and do thy will, as before his death. But if thou do not raise him up, then, O Elohim, take away my own soul, that I be like him, and leave me not in this dungeon, one and alone. For I could not stand alone in this world, but with him only. For thou, O Elohim, didst cause a slumber to come upon him, and didst take a bone from his side, and didst restore the flesh in the place of it, by thy divine power. And thou didst take me, the bone, and make me a woman, bright like him, with heart, reason, and speech, and in flesh like unto his own. And thou didst make me after the likeness of his countenance, by thy mercy and power. O Yahuwah, I and he are one, and thou, O Elohim, art our creator. Thou art he who made us both in one day. Therefore, O Elohim, give him life, that he may be with me in this strange land, while we dwell in it on account of our transgression. But if thou wilt not give him life, then take me, even me, like him, that we both may die the same day. And Eve wept bitterly, and fell upon our father Adam from her great sorrow. Chapter 6. But Elohim looked upon them, for they had killed themselves through great grief. But he would raise them and comfort them. He therefore sent his word unto them, that they should stand and be raised forthwith. And Yahuwah said unto Adam and Eve, You transgressed of your own free will, until you came out of the garden in which I had placed you. Of your own free will have you transgressed through your desire for divinity, greatness, and an exalted state, such as I have, so that I deprived you of the bright nature in which you then were. And I made you come out of the garden to this land, rough and full of trouble. If you only had not transgressed my commandment, and had kept my law, and had not eaten of the fruit of the tree, near which I told you not to come. And there were fruit trees in the garden better than that one. But the wicked Satan, who continued not in his first estate, nor kept his faith, in whom was no good intent towards me, and who thought I had created him, yet set me at naught, and sought the Godhead, so that I hurled him down from heaven. He it is who made the tree appear pleasant in your eyes, until you ate of it by hearkening to him. Thus have you transgressed my commandment, and therefore have I brought upon you all these sorrows. For I am Elohim, the Creator, who, when I created my creatures, did not intend to destroy them. But after they had sorely roused my anger, I punished them with grievous plagues, until they repent. But if, on the contrary, they still continue hardened in their transgression, they shall be under a curse forever. Chapter 7. When Adam and Eve heard these words from Yahuwah, they wept and sobbed yet more, but they strengthened their hearts in Elohim, because they now felt that Yahuwah was to them like a father and a mother, and for this very reason they wept before him and sought mercy from him. Then Elohim had pity on them and said, O Adam, I have made my covenant with thee, and I will not turn from it, neither will I let thee return to the garden until my covenant of the great 5 days and a half is fulfilled. Then Adam said unto Elohim, O Yahuwah, thou didst create us, and make us fit to be in the garden, and before I transgressed, thou madest all beasts come to me, that I should name them. Thy grace was then on me, and I named every one according to thy mind, and thou madest them all subject unto me. But now, O Yahuwah Elohim, that I have transgressed thy commandment, all beasts will rise against me, and will devour me, and Eve, thy handmaid, and will cut off our life from the face of the earth. I therefore beseech thee, O Elohim, that since thou hast made us come out of the garden, and hast made us be in a strange land, thou wilt not let the beasts hurt us. When Yahuwah heard these words from Adam, he had pity on him, and felt that he had truly said that the beasts of the field would rise and devour him and Eve, because he, Yahuwah, was angry with them too, on account of their transgression. Then Elohim commanded the beasts and the birds and all that moves upon the earth to come to Adam and to be familiar with him, and not to trouble him and Eve, nor yet any of the good and righteous among their posterity. Then the beasts did obeisance to Adam, according to the commandment of Elohim, except the serpent, against which Elohim was wroth. It did not come to Adam with the beasts. Chapter 8. Then Adam wept and said, O Elohim, when we dwelt in the garden, and our hearts were lifted up, we saw the angels that sang praises in heaven. But now we do not see as we were used to do. Nay, when we entered the cave, all creation became hidden from us. Then Elohim, Yahuwah, said unto Adam, when thou wast under subjection to me, thou hadst a bright nature within thee, and for that reason couldst thou see things far off. But after thy transgression, thy bright nature was withdrawn from thee, and it was not left to thee to see things afar off, but only near at hand, after the ability of the flesh, for it is brutish. When Adam and Eve had heard these words from Elohim, they went away, praising and worshiping him with a sorrowful heart, and Elohim ceased to commune with them. Chapter 9. Then Adam and Eve came out of the cave of treasures, and drew near to the garden gate, and there they stood to look at it, and wept for having come away from it. And Adam and Eve went from before the gate of the garden to the southern side of it, and found there the water that watered the garden from the root of the tree of life, and that parted itself from thence into 4 rivers over the earth. Then they came and drew near to that water, and looked at it, and saw that it was the water that came forth from under the root of the tree of life in the garden. And Adam wept and wailed, and smote upon his breast for being severed from the garden, and said to Eve, why hast thou brought upon me, upon thyself, and upon our seed, so many of these plagues and punishments? And Eve said unto him, what is it thou hast seen, to weep and to speak to me in this wise? And he said to Eve, seest thou not this water that was with us in the garden, that watered the trees of the garden, and flowed out thence? And we, when we were in the garden, did not care about it. But since we came to this strange land, we love it, and turn it to use for our body. But when Eve heard these words from him, she wept, and from the soreness of their weeping, they fell into that water, and would have put an end to themselves in it, so as never again to return and behold the creation. For when they looked upon the work of creation, they felt they must put an end to themselves. Chapter 10. Then Elohim, merciful and gracious, looked upon them, thus lying in the water, and nigh unto death, and sent an angel, who brought them out of the water, and laid them on the seashore as dead. Then the angel went up to Elohim, was welcome, and said, O Elohim, thy creatures have breathed their last. Then Elohim sent his word unto Adam and Eve, who raised them from their death. And Adam said after he was raised, O Elohim, while we were in the garden, we did not require or care for this water. But since we came to this land, we cannot do without it. Then Elohim said to Adam, while thou wast under my command, and was a bright angel, thou knewest not this water. But after that thou hast transgressed my commandment, thou canst not do without water, wherein to wash thy body, and make it grow. For it is now like that of beasts, and is in want of the water. When Adam and Eve heard these words from Elohim, they wept a bitter cry. And Adam entreated Elohim to let him return into the garden and look at it a second time. But Elohim said unto Adam, I have made thee a promise. When that promise is fulfilled, I will bring thee back into the garden, thee and thy righteous seed. And Elohim ceased to commune with Adam. Chapter 11. Then Adam and Eve felt themselves burning with thirst and heat and sorrow. And Adam said to Eve, we shall not drink of this water, even if we were to die. O Eve, when this water comes into our inner parts, it will increase our punishments and that of our children that shall come after us. Both Adam and Eve then withdrew from the water and drank none of it at all, but came and entered the cave of treasures. But when in it Adam could not see Eve, he only heard the noise she made. Neither could she see Adam, but heard the noise he made. Then Adam wept in deep affliction, and smote upon his breast. And he arose and said to Eve, where art thou? And she said unto him, Lo, I am standing in this darkness. He said to her, remember the bright nature in which we lived while we abode in the garden. O Eve, remember the glory that rested on us in the garden. O Eve, remember the trees that overshadowed us in the garden while we moved among them. O Eve, remember that while we were in the garden, we knew neither night nor day. Think of the tree of life from below, which flowed the water and that shed luster over us. Remember, O Eve, the garden land and the brightness thereof. Think, O think of that garden in which was no darkness while we dwelt therein. Whereas no sooner did we come into this cave of treasures than darkness encompassed us round about, till we can no longer see each other, and all the pleasure of this life has come to an end. Chapter 12. Then Adam smote upon his breast, he and Eve, and they mourned the whole night until dawn drew near. And they sighed over the length of the night in Miazah. And Adam beat himself and threw himself on the ground in the cave from bitter grief, and because of the darkness and lay there as dead. But Eve heard the noise he made in falling upon the earth, and she felt about for him with her hands, and found him like a corpse. Then she was afraid, speechless, and remained by him. But the merciful Yahuwah looked on the death of Adam, and on Eve's silence from fear of the darkness. And the word of Elohim came unto Adam, and raised him from his death, and opened Eve's mouth, that she might speak. Then Adam arose in the cave and said, O Elohim, wherefore has light departed from us, and darkness come over us? Wherefore dost thou leave us in this long darkness? Why wilt thou plague us thus? And this darkness, O Yahuwah, where was it ere it came upon us? It is such that we cannot see each other. For so long as we were in the garden, we neither saw nor even knew what darkness is. I was not hidden from Eve, neither was she hidden from me, until now that she cannot see me, and no darkness came upon us to separate us from each other. But she and I were both in one bright light. I saw her, and she saw me. Yet now, since we came into the cave, darkness has come upon us, and parted us asunder, so that I do not see her, and she does not see me. O Yahuwah, wilt thou then plague us with this darkness? Chapter 12. Then when Elohim, who is merciful and full of pity, heard Adam's voice, he said unto him, O Adam, so long as the good angel was obedient to me, a bright light rested on him and on his hosts. But when he transgressed my commandment, I deprived him of that bright nature, and he became dark. And when he was in the heavens, in the realm of light, he knew naught of darkness. But he transgressed, and I made him fall from heaven upon the earth. And it was this darkness that came upon him. And on thee, O Adam, while in my garden and obedient to me, did that bright light rest also. But when I heard of thy transgression, I deprived thee of that bright light. Yet of my mercy I did not turn thee into darkness, but I made thee thy body of flesh, over which I spread the skin, in order that it may bear cold and heat. If I had let my wrath fall heavily upon thee, I should have destroyed thee. And had I turned thee into darkness, it would have been as if I killed thee. But in my mercy I have made thee as thou art, when thou didst transgress my commandment, O Adam. I drove thee from the garden, and made thee come forth into this land, and commanded thee to dwell in this cave, and darkness came upon thee, as it did upon him who transgressed my commandment. Thus, O Adam, has this night deceived thee. It is not to last forever, but is only of 12 hours. When it is over, daylight will return. Sigh not, therefore, neither be moved, and say not in thy heart that this darkness is long and drags on wearily. and say not in thy heart that I plague thee with it. Strengthen thy heart, and be not afraid. This darkness is not a punishment, but, O Adam, I have made the day, and have placed the sun in it to give light, in order that thou and thy children should do your work. For I knew thou shouldest sin and transgress, and come out into this land. Yet would I not force thee, nor be heard upon thee, nor shut up, nor doom thee, though thy fall, nor through thy coming out from light into darkness, nor yet through thy coming from the garden into this land. For I made thee of the light, and I will to bring out the children of light from thee, and like unto thee. But thou didst not keep one day my commandment, until I had finished the creation and blessed everything in it. Then I commanded thee concerning the tree, that thou eat not thereof. Yet I knew that Satan, who deceived himself, would also deceive thee. So I made known to thee by means of the tree not to come near him. And I told thee not to eat of the fruit thereof, nor to taste of it, nor yet to sit under it, nor to yield to it. Had I not been and spoken to thee, O Adam, concerning the tree, and had I left thee without a commandment, and thou hadst sinned, it would have been an offense on my part, for not having given thee any order. Thou wouldest turn round and blame me for it. But I commanded thee and warned thee, and thou didst fall, so that my creatures cannot blame me, but blame rests on them alone. And, O Adam, I have made the day for thee, and for thy children after thee, and for them to work and toil therein. And I have made the night for them to rest in it from their work, and for the beasts of the field to go forth by night and seek their food. But little of darkness now remains, O Adam, and daylight will soon appear. Chapter 14. Then Adam said unto Elohim, O Yahuwah, take thou my soul, and let me not see this gloom any more, or remove me to some place where there is no darkness. But Elohim, Yahuwah, said to Adam, Verily I say unto thee, this darkness will pass from thee. Every day I have determined for thee, until the fulfillment of my covenant, when I will save thee and bring thee back again into the garden, into the abode of light thou longest for, wherein is no darkness. I will bring thee to it in the kingdom of heaven. Again said Elohim unto Adam, All this misery that thou hast been made to take upon thee because of thy transgression will not free thee from the hand of Satan, and will not save thee. But I will, when I shall come down from heaven, and shall become flesh of thy seed, and take upon me the infirmity from which thou sufferest. Then the darkness that came upon thee in this cave shall come upon me in the grave, when I am in the flesh of thy seed. And I, who am without years, shall be subject to the reckoning of years, of times, of months, and of days, and I shall be reckoned as one of the sons of men, in order to save thee. And Elohim ceased to commune with Adam. Chapter 15. Then Adam and Eve wept and sorrowed by reason of Elohim's word to them, that they should not return to the garden until the fulfillment of the days decreed upon them, but mostly because Elohim had told them that he should suffer for their salvation. Chapter 16. After this, Adam and Eve ceased not to stand in the cave, praying and weeping, until the morning dawned upon them. And when they saw the light return to them, they restrained from fear and strengthened their hearts. Then Adam began to come out of the cave, and when he came to the mouth of it, and stood and turned his face towards the east, and saw the sun rise in glowing rays, and felt the heat thereof on his body, he was afraid of it, and thought in his heart that this flame came forth to plague him. He wept then, and smote upon his breast, and fell upon the earth on his face, and made his request, saying, O Yahuwah, plague me not, neither consume me, nor yet take away my life from the earth. For he thought the sun was Elohim, inasmuch as while he was in the garden, and heard the voice of Elohim, and the sound he had made in the garden, and feared him. Adam never saw the brilliant light of the sun, neither did the flaming heat thereof touch his body. Therefore he was afraid of the sun when flaming rays of it reached him. He thought Elohim meant to plague him therewith all the days he had decreed for him. For Adam also said in his thoughts, as Elohim did not plague us with darkness, behold, he has caused this sun to rise and to plague us with burning heat. But while he was thus thinking in his heart, the word of Elohim came unto him and said, O Adam, rise and stand up. This sun is not Elohim, but it has been created to give light by day, of which I spake unto thee in the cave, saying that the dawn would break forth, and there would be light by day. But I am Elohim, who comforted thee in the night. And Elohim ceased to commune with Adam. Chapter 17. Then Adam and Eve came out at the mouth of the cave, and went towards the garden. But as they drew near to it, before the western gate, from which Satan came when he deceived Adam and Eve, they found the serpent that became Satan coming at the gate, and sorrowfully licking the dust, and wriggling on its breast on the ground, by reason of the curse that fell upon it from Elohim. And whereas aforetime the serpent was the most exalted of all beasts, now it was changed and become slippery, and the meanest of them all. And it crept on its breast, and went on its belly. And whereas it was the fairest of all beasts, it had been changed and was become the ugliest of them all. Instead of feeding on the best food, now it turned to eat the dust. Instead of dwelling as before in the best places, now it lived in the dust. And whereas it had been the most beautiful of all beasts, all of which stood dumb at its beauty, it was now abhorred of them. And again, whereas it dwelt in one beautiful abode, to which all other animals came from elsewhere, and where it drank, they drank also of the same. Now after it had become venomous by reason of Elohim's curse, all beasts fled from its abode, and would not drink of the water it drank, but fled from it. Chapter 18. When the accursed serpent saw Adam and Eve, it swelled its head, stood on its tail, and with eyes blood red did as if it would kill them. It made straight for Eve and ran after her, while Adam, standing by, wept because he had no stick in his hand wherewith to smite the serpent, and knew not how to put it to death. But with a heart burning for Eve, Adam approached the serpent and held it by the tail, when it turned towards him, and said unto him, O Adam, because of thee and of Eve, I am slippery, and go upon my belly. Then, by reason of its great strength, it threw down Adam and Eve, and pressed upon them, as if it would kill them. But Elohim sent an angel, who threw the serpent away from them, and raised them up. Then the word of Elohim came to the serpent, and said unto it, In the first instance I made thee glib, and made thee to go upon thy belly, but I did not deprive thee of speech. Now, however, be thou dumb, and speak no more, thou and thy race, because in the first place has the ruin of my creatures happened through thee, and now thou wishest to kill them. And the serpent was struck dumb, and spake no more. And the wind came to blow from heaven by command of Elohim, that carried away the serpent from Adam and Eve, threw it on the seashore, and it landed in India. Chapter 19. But Adam and Eve wept before Elohim, and Adam said unto him, O Yahuwah, when I was in the cave, I said this to thee, my Yahuwah, that the beasts of the field would rise and devour me, and cut off my life from the earth. Then Adam, by reason of what had befallen him, smote upon his breast, and fell upon the earth like a corpse. Then came to him the word of Elohim, who raised him, and said unto him, O Adam, not one of these beasts will be able to hurt thee, because when I made the beasts and other moving things come to thee in the cave, I did not let the serpent come with them, lest it should rise against you, make you tremble, and the fear of it should fall into your hearts. For I knew that accursed one is wicked. Therefore would I not let it come near you with the other beasts. But now strengthen thy heart, and fear not. I am with thee unto the end of the days I have determined on thee. Chapter 20. Then Adam wept and said, O Elohim, remove us to some other place, that the serpent may not come again near us, and rise against us, lest it find thy handmaid Eve alone, and kill her, for its eyes are hideous and evil. But Elohim said to Adam and Eve, Henceforth fear not, I will not let it come near you. I have driven it away from you, from this mountain. Neither will I leave in it aught to hurt you. Then Adam and Eve worshipped before Elohim, and gave him thanks, and praised him for having delivered them from death. Chapter 21. Then Adam and Eve went in search of the garden, and in the heat beat like a flame on their faces. They sweated from the heat, and wept before Yahuwah. But the place where they wept was nigh unto a high mountain, facing the western gate of the garden. Then Adam threw himself down from the top of that mountain. His face was torn, and his flesh was flayed. Much blood flowed from him, and he was nigh unto death. Meanwhile Eve remained standing on the mountain, weeping over him, thus lying. And she said, I wish not to live after him, for all that he did to himself was through me. Then she threw herself after him, and was torn and scotched by stones, and remained lying as dead. But the merciful Elohim, who looks upon his creatures, looked upon Adam and Eve as they lay dead, and he sent his word unto them, and raised them, and said to Adam, O Adam, all this misery which thou hast wrought upon thyself will not avail against my rule, neither will it alter the covenant of the 5,500 years. Chapter 22. Then Adam said to Elohim, I wither in the heat, I am faint from walking, and am loath of this world, and I know not when thou wilt bring me out of it to rest. Then Yahuwah Elohim said unto him, O Adam, it cannot be at present, not until thou hast ended thy days. Then shall I bring thee out of this wretched land. And Adam said to Elohim, While I was in the garden, I knew neither heat nor languor, neither moving about, nor trembling, nor fear. But now, since I came to this land, all this affliction has come upon me. Then Elohim said to Adam, So long as thou wast keeping my commandment, my light and my grace rested on thee. But when thou didst transgress my commandment, sorrow and misery befell thee in this land. And Adam wept and said, O Yahuwah, do not cut me off for this, neither smite me with heavy plagues, nor yet repay me according to my sin. For we, of our own will, did transgress thy commandment, and forsook thy law, and sought to become gods like unto thee, when Satan the enemy deceived us. Then Elohim said again unto Adam, Because thou hast borne fear and trembling in this land, languor and suffering, treading and walking about, going upon this mountain and dying from it, I will take all this upon myself in order to save thee. Chapter 23. Then Adam wept more and said, O Elohim, have mercy on me, so far as to take upon thee that which I will do. But Elohim took his word from Adam and Eve. Then Adam and Eve stood on their feet, and Adam said to Eve, Gird thyself, and I also will gird myself. And she girded herself, as Adam told her. Then Adam and Eve took stones and placed them in the shape of an altar, and they took leaves from the trees outside the garden, with which they wiped from the face of the rock the blood they had spilled. But that which had dropped on the sand they took together with the dust wherewith it was mingled, and offered it upon the altar as an offering unto Elohim. Then Adam and Eve stood under the altar and wept, thus entreating Elohim, Forgive us our trespass and our sin, and look upon us with thine eye of mercy. For when we were in the garden, our praises and our hymns went up before thee without ceasing. But when we came into this strange land, pure praise was no longer ours, nor righteous prayer, nor understanding hearts, nor sweet thoughts, nor just counsels, nor long discernment, nor upright feelings. Neither is our bright nature left us, but our body is changed from the similitude in which it was at first, when we were created. Yet now look upon our blood, which is offered upon these stones, and accept it at our hands, like the praise we used to sing unto thee at first, when in the garden. And Adam began to make more requests unto Elohim. Chapter 24. Then the merciful Elohim, good and lover of men, looked upon Adam and Eve, and upon their blood, which they had held up as an offering unto him, without an order from him for doing so. But he wondered at them, and accepted their offerings. And Elohim sent from his presence a bright fire that consumed their offering. He smelt the sweet savor of their offering, and showed them mercy. Then came the word of Elohim to Adam, and said unto him, O Adam, as thou hast shed thy blood, so will I shed my own blood, when I become flesh of thy seed. And as thou didst die, O Adam, so also will I die. And as thou didst build an altar, so also will I make for thee an altar on the earth. And as thou didst offer thy blood upon it, so also will I offer my blood upon an altar on the earth. And as thou didst sue for forgiveness through that blood, so also will I make my blood forgiveness of sins, and blot out transgressions in it. And now behold, I have accepted thy offering, O Adam. But the days of the covenant, wherein I have bound thee, are not fulfilled. When they are fulfilled, then will I bring thee back into the garden. Now, therefore, strengthen thy heart, and when sorrow comes upon thee, make me an offering, and I will be favorable unto thee. Chapter 25. But Elohim knew that Adam had in his thoughts that he should often kill himself and make an offering to him of his blood. Therefore did he say unto him, O Adam, Do not again kill thyself as thou didst by throwing thyself down from that mountain. But Adam said unto Elohim, It was in my mind to put an end to myself at once, for having transgressed thy commandments, and for my having come out of the beautiful garden, and for the bright light of which thou hast deprived me, and for the praises which poured forth from my mouth without ceasing, and for the light that covered me. Yet of thy goodness, O Elohim, do not away with me altogether, but be favorable to me every time I die, and bring me to life. And thereby it will be made known that thou art a merciful Elohim, who willest not that one should perish, who lovest not that one should fall, and who does not condemn any one cruelly, badly, and by whole destruction. Then Adam remained silent, and the word of Elohim came unto him, and blessed him, and comforted him, and covenanted him with him, that he would save him at the end of the days determined upon him. This, then, was the first offering Adam made unto Elohim, and so it became his custom to do so.